Speak less, command more. Motivational speech inspired by Denzel Washington. Motivation, Stoicism. He who is not afraid to be silent commands the room. Let that sink in for a moment. In a world where everyone is talking, the real power lies not in the loudest voice but in the one who knows when to remain silent. Think about it. The people who speak less often are the ones who truly hold sway. They don't have to shout to be heard, they simply are heard. Why is that? Because they've mastered a concept that most people completely overlook: the art of restraint. In my own journey, I've learned that the key to influence doesn't come from talking more. It comes from listening, observing, and knowing when to use your words. When you talk too much, you reveal things you didn't even realize: insecurities, lack of preparation, and a desperate need for validation. But the ones who speak less? Those are the ones who command respect. They move with purpose. They don't need to fill every silence with noise. Instead, they harness the power of stillness, and in doing so, they control the room. Welcome to Stoic in Your Life, where we explore how silence, discipline, and control can help you master the art of speaking less and commanding more. 1. The Power of Restraint. The wise man speaks because he has something to say. The fool speaks because he has to say something. Plato. In today's world, we often find ourselves surrounded by noise. Social media, constant conversations, and the pressure to be heard can sometimes drown out the most valuable lessons in life. However, there's an age-old principle that few truly understand. Speaking less is often the key to commanding more. This doesn't mean being silent all the time, but rather using your words sparingly and with purpose. The power of restraint isn't just about holding back. It's about choosing the right moment to speak and understanding that sometimes the silence before your words is what truly gives you influence. Denzel Washington once said, "The loudest in the room is often the weakest in the room." This simple truth reflects a profound understanding of human nature. The quieter you are, the more you make others pay attention to what you say. In modern life, particularly for men in their prime years, whether you're a leader in business, a father, or a mentor, the art of restraint is crucial. You see, those who speak too much often expose their insecurities. They reveal doubts, lack of preparation, or even desperation for approval. This is because, as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once advised, "Be silent, or let thy words be worth more than silence." Too many men think that speaking more will make them appear stronger, more knowledgeable, or more authoritative. In reality, it does the opposite. The more you talk, the more you risk sounding uncertain or worse, irrelevant. And here's the kicker. Once words leave your mouth, you can never take them back. A poorly chosen word can linger in someone's mind far longer than you may think. Instead, when you master the power of restraint, you become someone who is measured in speech. This is how you earn respect. The man who doesn't feel the need to fill every silence commands attention without demanding it. People instinctively look to him, not because he is the loudest, but because he is in control. Silence, when used strategically, becomes a weapon. It allows others to wonder what you're thinking, what you'll say next. And when you do speak, it carries much more weight. In this sense, silence doesn't just indicate that you have nothing to say. It signals that you are someone worth listening to. Now, I understand this might be hard to accept in today's culture, where we're told to speak up, assert yourself, and make your voice heard. But consider this. Those who truly wield power are often the ones who talk the least. Take a look at some of history's greatest leaders. How often did they speak in long, drawn-out speeches? Think of Winston Churchill, Theodore Roosevelt, or even modern leaders. They knew how to make their words count. When they did speak, they said just enough to command respect and to influence. But the real power they held was in their ability to listen, to pause, and to think before they spoke. Let's relate this to the modern workplace. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, managing a team, or running your own business, the principle remains the same. If you're always speaking, whether it's talking over others in meetings, filling awkward silences with unnecessary chatter, or constantly providing unsolicited advice, you'll soon be seen as just noise in the background. People will stop listening. They may even begin to tune you out. On the other hand, if you speak less, but with clarity, intention, and purpose, you immediately stand out. Others will lean in to listen to you because they know you don't waste words. In business, where time is money and decisions need to be sharp, a leader who talks less but makes every word count is seen as someone who is both confident and in control. And let's not forget the advice from the Stoics. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak." This isn't just about keeping your mouth shut. It's about recognizing that true wisdom often comes from listening and observing the world around you. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the ability to remain silent gives you the space to absorb what others are saying and to think carefully about your responses. Too many people respond impulsively, seeking validation or approval, only to find themselves regretting their words later. But when you hold back, you give yourself the gift of reflection. You have the time to assess what others are saying, to understand their motivations, and to choose a more powerful, measured response. This kind of thoughtful restraint creates not only respect, but a form of mastery over yourself and your environment. In a world where everyone is constantly pushing to be heard, being able to sit back and wait for the right moment to speak demonstrates that you are someone who is confident and composed. And confidence, as we all know, is magnetic. Now, let's apply this to a practical scenario. Think of any business meeting or conversation where you're part of a group. If you're constantly speaking, you risk alienating yourself. You might come across as overbearing or insecure. But if you listen carefully, give others the floor, and only speak when you have something substantial to add, you quickly establish yourself as someone who is in control. Your words will carry weight, and others will respect you more. They'll value your insights and trust that when you speak, it's for a good reason. But here's the hardest part. It requires a certain level of self-discipline. In a world where everyone feels the need to comment, tweet, or contribute their opinion at every moment, practicing restraint can be difficult. However, when you master the art of silence and understand the power of less, you not only gain respect from others, but you also develop inner peace. This is what Stoicism teaches us: the ability to control ourselves, to remain unshaken in the face of chaos, and to act only when necessary. This doesn't mean you never speak up, but it does mean you speak with purpose. In your personal life, this philosophy applies just as much. In relationships, whether with your partner, children, or friends, speaking less and listening more can transform the dynamic. You don't need to always have the last word. In fact, in many situations, the most powerful thing you can do is listen, observe, and respond with wisdom. You'll find that your relationships become deeper, more meaningful, and more grounded when you take the time to understand others before offering your perspective. Mastering the power of restraint isn't just about being quiet. It's about being intentional with your words and actions. It's about choosing when to speak, when to listen, and when to act. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you master your inner self, including your desire to speak constantly, you gain the true power of silence. And that is when you can truly command more, whether in business, relationships, or life itself. I2. Talking too much weakens your position. One of the most powerful lessons you can learn in life is that talking too much weakens your position. We live in a world where people are often taught that the more they speak, the more authority they will gain. But in reality, the opposite is true. When you talk too much, you're not only giving away more than you intend, but you're also revealing things about yourself, things that others can pick up on. Your insecurities, your lack of preparation, your desperation for approval, they all leak through in the words you speak. You're not just sharing your thoughts. You're exposing your weaknesses. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that the loudest voice in the room is the most powerful. But the truth is, it's often the quietest person, the one who speaks with purpose and restraint, who holds the most influence. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how, in any conversation or meeting, there's always someone who can't stop talking? Maybe it's the person who feels the need to fill every moment with their voice, as if their constant words are somehow proving their value. But what if I told you that this incessant talking is often a sign of insecurity, not strength? It's like someone trying to cover up their lack of confidence by over-explaining everything. And what happens when someone does this? They start to lose focus. They scatter their thoughts, and the clarity of their message diminishes. Their words start to lose their impact, and people begin to tune them out. You see, the more you talk, the more you give away. Not just your thoughts, but your emotions and your control. And control is everything. We've all been there, haven't we? That moment in a conversation or meeting where you feel the urge to fill the silence, to make your point, to keep the conversation going. But the truth is, when you speak too much, you're often just handing over control of the room. The more words you use, the less powerful each one becomes. It's a simple but often overlooked truth. Silence is a weapon. When you choose to speak less, you create space. Space for others to listen, space for your words to hold weight, and space for you to control the direction of the conversation. Silence forces people to pay attention to what you'll say next. It makes them lean in, wondering what your next words will be, and when you speak, every word carries more weight. The most powerful people in the world, whether they're leaders, CEOs, or even influential figures in everyday life, understand this concept. They don't feel the need to constantly fill the room with their voice. Instead, they let the silence speak for them. Their words are few, but when they speak, people listen. It's not about the quantity of what you say, it's about the quality and impact of your words. Think about some of the most influential leaders in modern history. Winston Churchill, Theodore Roosevelt, Steve Jobs. Did they talk endlessly? Number. They spoke with precision and purpose. When they opened their mouths, people knew it was worth listening to. You see, talking too much is often a sign of insecurity. It's someone trying to compensate for a lack of confidence, trying to be heard because they fear being overlooked. But real confidence, real control, is knowing when to remain silent. When you can sit back, observe, and choose the perfect moment to speak, you demonstrate that you're in charge of not just the conversation, but your emotions and your responses as well. Have you ever been in a meeting where someone won't stop talking, just to hear themselves speak? Or a conversation where one person dominates the entire exchange? It's exhausting, right? And you can't help but start tuning them out, because their words lose meaning. On the other hand, the person who listens and speaks with purpose when they finally do share their thoughts commands attention. Their words hit home. They're not filling the air with meaningless chatter. They're making every moment count. This is what separates effective communicators from those who just talk for the sake of talking. This is the difference between leading with influence and being a passive participant. So, what can you take away from this? First, recognize that speaking less doesn't mean you're not contributing. In fact, it's often the most valuable contribution you can make. Resisting the urge to speak unnecessarily forces you to focus on your message and refine your thoughts. Every word you choose will have more weight, more impact. Second, understand that silence is not something to fear. Silence creates space for thought, for reflection, and for others to step in and share. But it also gives you the power to control the flow of conversation. You can't control how others speak, but you can control how much you speak and how you say it. And lastly, remember this. True strength doesn't lie in how much you say, but in knowing when to speak and when to listen. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This advice is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. The art of restraint, of speaking less, is not a sign of weakness. It is the foundation of true influence. When you master the ability to hold back, to allow others to speak, and to choose your words wisely, you position yourself as someone who is in control, not of others, but of yourself. That's real power. So take a step back. The next time you're in a conversation or a meeting, take a moment before you speak. Consider whether your words are necessary or if silence would speak more powerfully than anything you could say. In the end, it's not about how much you say. It's about how much weight your words carry when you do speak. 3. Silence is strategic. In today's world, we're constantly surrounded by noise, constant chatter, notifications, and an overwhelming pressure to always be heard. But what if I told you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain silent? In fact, silence can be one of the most strategic tools at your disposal. It's not just about choosing not to speak. It's about using silence in a way that adds value to your presence, your thoughts, and your influence. You see, silence isn't emptiness. It's a tool for reflection, a way to process your thoughts, and a method to give your words the weight they deserve. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Silence is a lesson learned through the mastery of the tongue." Now think about that for a moment. If silence can teach us something, don't you think it's worth exploring how to use it to our advantage? So let's take a step back and really look at how silence works in our lives. In our fast-paced world, we often feel the need to fill every moment with something, whether it's speaking, texting, or posting online. But what happens when we choose not to speak? What happens when we allow silence to take the stage for a moment? The truth is, in many situations, silence actually speaks louder than words. It demands attention. It invites curiosity. People start to wonder, why is this person quiet? What are they thinking? And in that moment of wonder, you gain influence. Think about the most powerful leaders you know. Have you ever noticed how they can enter a room and not say a word, yet somehow their presence fills the space? That's the power of silence. They don't need to talk to be heard. Their silence speaks volumes. It creates an aura of authority and composure. They allow others to fill the silence, which often leads them to reveal more than they intend to. And this is where strategy comes into play. Silence is an opportunity to listen, to observe, and to gain more information than you might have otherwise. But here's the thing. Silence isn't just about sitting there doing nothing. It's an active choice. When you choose silence, you are taking control. You're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're using that time to assess the situation, to read the room, and to understand where the conversation is heading. In many ways, silence is a powerful form of self-discipline. It requires you to resist the urge to interrupt, to fill the space with your thoughts, or to steer the conversation in your direction. Instead, you allow others to take the floor. And this, believe it or not, can make you more persuasive in the long run. Why? Because people respect those who listen. People respect those who don't feel the need to dominate a conversation. The more you speak, the more you risk diluting your message. But the less you speak, the more weight your words will carry when you do decide to speak up. The quieter you are, the more people will listen. Think about it. When was the last time you really listened to someone who didn't feel the need to talk nonstop? When did their words hold more weight because they chose their moments wisely? This isn't just theory. It's something you can apply in your everyday life, whether you're at work, in a meeting, or even in a personal conversation. In any of these situations, silence is a strategy that can be used to create space for others to express themselves. It's like chess, where you don't rush your moves but instead think 2 or 3 steps ahead. By staying silent, you gain the upper hand. You learn more, and you give yourself the opportunity to respond with intention. When you do speak, you'll have all the information you need to make your words powerful and impactful. There's a saying from the famous thinker Lao Tzu: "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." This isn't to say that speaking is bad. It's to highlight that speaking less gives you a chance to gather knowledge. When you speak less, you can observe more. And in observing, you will see things that others miss. You'll catch subtle cues, body language, and tone that will help you better understand the situation at hand. Silence is also strategic in how it influences how people perceive you. If you are constantly talking, you may be perceived as insecure or desperate for attention. But when you choose to speak less, you project an image of control. You give off the impression that you don't need to fill every moment with your voice because you are comfortable with silence and comfortable with yourself. There's a certain confidence in restraint, in knowing that you don't need to prove anything through words. You prove your value by what you do and when you choose to speak. And let's be honest, how many times have you seen someone talk too much and by the end of it, you're left wondering if they actually had anything important to say? The more they spoke, the less impact they had. The more they talked, the more their words seemed to lose their meaning. In contrast, the person who listens, who remains composed and quiet, only speaks when necessary, and when they do, their words are sharp, clear, and powerful. But here's the most important part. Silence allows you to connect with your inner self. In a world full of distractions, silence gives you the space to think deeply, to reflect, and to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than impulse. When you're silent, you're not just withholding words, you're tapping into your inner wisdom. You're giving yourself time to filter through your emotions and reactions so that when you do speak, your words come from a place of deep understanding. Have you ever been in a situation where you regretted something you said too quickly? Maybe you spoke in the heat of the moment, without really thinking through your words. I know I have. But imagine how many times you could avoid this if you gave yourself the space to sit in silence and think before reacting. That's where true strength lies, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. So, what's the lesson here? The lesson is simple. Silence is a tool of power. It's a tool that allows you to listen, observe, and choose your words wisely. It gives you time to think and to reflect, which makes your words that much more meaningful when you finally speak. It's a form of self-discipline that shows others you don't need to talk constantly to be in control. In fact, you're in control because you know when to keep quiet. So next time you're in a conversation or meeting, take a moment. Consider whether your words are necessary or if silence will give you a stronger position. You might just be surprised by how much power you gain when you master the art of silence. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "Silence is a lesson learned through the mastery of the tongue." And believe me, mastering silence will make you a stronger, more influential person than any amount of talking ever will. 4. Listening and observing are key. In a world where it often feels like everyone is shouting for attention, the ability to listen and observe becomes an incredibly powerful skill. But not just any listening or observation. I'm talking about the kind that requires focus, discipline, and deep self-awareness. You see, in order to truly command respect and authority, you must first learn to shut out the noise, to take in the world around you without rushing to react. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Let that sink in for a moment. It's not just a reminder to speak less, it's a call to truly pay attention to the world and people around you. Too often we're too eager to jump into a conversation, to dominate it, or to be heard. But what if, instead of rushing to speak, we took the time to listen, to observe, and to learn? What if the key to commanding more was actually in saying less? When you stop talking all the time, you give yourself the chance to really understand what's going on in a situation. You start noticing the things others overlook. The small details, the unspoken emotions, the tension in the air, these are the things that tell you far more than words ever could. And when you understand what's truly going on, your ability to act, to make decisions, and to influence outcomes is enhanced in ways that words alone can never achieve. Think about the most successful leaders you know, whether in business, politics, or any field. What do they all have in common? It's not just their ability to talk effectively. No, it's their ability to listen and observe. They know when to speak and when to stay silent, and they use their silence not just as a retreat, but as a weapon of influence. They aren't just reacting to what people say. They're thinking about the unspoken cues, the things that lie beneath the surface. In business meetings, in negotiations, in everyday conversations, they remain composed, watching, listening, and understanding before they ever speak. And when they do speak, their words are deliberate, measured, and impactful. They've earned the right to speak because they've spent the time listening and observing. In doing so, they not only gain wisdom from others, but also demonstrate control and emotional intelligence. It's in this space of listening and observing that true power resides. It's not the loudest voice that holds sway, but the quiet observer who understands everything that's happening around them. Now consider this. How often have you found yourself speaking simply to fill a gap in the conversation or to appear knowledgeable? We've all been there, saying things we don't truly mean or that don't add value just for the sake of being heard. But the truth is, when you do this, you weaken your position. You're not letting your thoughts mature. You're not allowing your words to carry the weight they deserve. When you speak too much, you give away control. You lose the ability to choose your moment. You begin to blur your message, and, as a result, you start losing credibility. The more you talk, the less people pay attention to what you're saying. It's almost as if the more words you speak, the less powerful they become. That's why listening is so critical. Every time you hold your tongue, you preserve your power. Every time you stay quiet while others speak, you learn something valuable. People reveal more about themselves in their words, their body language, and the way they carry themselves than they ever do in what they say. Have you ever been in a conversation where you've said something and then noticed the other person's reaction? Maybe their eyes widened or their posture stiffened? That's a clue. They've just given you information that could change the direction of the conversation, but only if you're paying attention. But if you're too busy thinking about what you're going to say next, you miss it. When you listen deeply, you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're soaking in everything around you, the subtext, the feelings, the things that remain unsaid. This is where real insight comes from, and when you gain that insight, you gain an advantage. But the challenge here is to master the art of active listening. This means you're not just passively hearing the words that come out of someone's mouth. You're tuning into the underlying meaning. You're paying attention to their body language, the tone of their voice, the way they express themselves. You're looking for signs of discomfort, hesitation, or uncertainty. In a world where many people are just waiting for their chance to talk, those who can truly listen are the ones who stand out. They're the ones who understand what's really happening, and they're the ones who can act strategically. Listening is your secret weapon because it helps you make better decisions, understand others more deeply, and build stronger connections. When you truly listen, you make people feel heard. And that, my friend, is a powerful thing. So let me ask you, when was the last time you really listened to someone? I mean truly listened, without interrupting or thinking about what you were going to say next? How much did you learn from that conversation? Think about the power that lies in silence. When you take a moment to absorb what others are saying, when you give them the space to express themselves fully, you gain access to the full picture. This is how you get ahead. When you listen and observe, you understand people in ways others can't, and that allows you to make decisions that put you in control. As a Stoic philosopher once said, "It is not that we have little time, but that we waste a good deal of it." In our rush to speak and be heard, We waste valuable time that could be used to learn, to grow, and to understand. By listening, by observing, we make the most of our time and our opportunities. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation, don't rush to speak. Instead, pause, listen, and take it all in. Let others reveal themselves and let yourself see what lies beneath the surface. When you master the art of listening and observing, you'll find that your words carry more weight, your decisions are more informed, and your presence commands more respect. In today's world, where everyone is fighting to be heard, being someone who listens can set you apart. When you become known for your ability to truly understand, you will attract influence without ever having to force it. And that's where the real power lies. Not in speaking, but in listening and observing. Thank you for being a part of today's video. Before we move on to the next segment, I just want to take a moment to express my gratitude for your presence in our community. It's a true pleasure to have you with us. Feel free to share your thoughts or personal impressions in the comments below. If you're new here, simply drop a comment saying, "I am a newbie." And if you've been with us for a while, let us know by commenting, "I am Stoic." Your engagement means the world to us and motivates us to continue creating content that helps you grow. Now, let's keep this journey going, shall we? 5. Speaking with purpose. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where you were speaking just to speak, maybe to fill the silence or to seem more knowledgeable? It's a common trap that many fall into, especially when we feel the pressure to always be on, to always have something to say. But here's the truth. Speaking without purpose doesn't just waste your time, it weakens your position. In fact, every time you speak without a clear reason or intention, you dilute the impact of your words. This is where the power of speaking with purpose comes in. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies to speaking. Instead of worrying about what you should say, simply say things that matter. When your words are deliberate and meaningful, they carry weight and influence. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time you spoke with intention? When was the last time you took a moment to think about the value of your words before they left your mouth? It's easy to get caught up in the moment, especially when you're trying to make a good impression or assert your dominance. But true power comes from knowing when to speak and, just as importantly, when to stay silent. When you speak with purpose, every word you say resonates with clarity and meaning. You don't have to speak endlessly to make an impact. In fact, the opposite is true. When you speak less but with intention, people listen more. They recognize that you don't waste words. Each one is chosen carefully, and that's what makes it powerful. Think about a time when you've been in a conversation and someone said just a few words, but those words stuck with you. Maybe they were simple, but they were so well-timed, so deliberate, that they changed your perspective. That's what speaking with purpose does. It leaves a lasting impression. It's not about saying everything you can say, but rather about saying what needs to be said at the right moment. This is where the art of restraint becomes important. You don't need to dominate every conversation or fill every pause with your voice. Instead, you focus on the quality of what you say, not the quantity. Your words should be like arrows, aimed, precise, and meant to hit their target. A great example of this can be seen in the lives of great leaders like Winston Churchill, who knew the value of speaking with purpose. Churchill wasn't the type to speak just for the sake of speaking. Every word he uttered, especially in his wartime speeches, was carefully thought out, aimed at inspiring, motivating, and rallying the people. He understood that the weight of a single statement could change the course of history, and that's the mindset we should adopt when we speak. The same is true for business leaders, coaches, and mentors. Those who inspire change don't do so by talking endlessly, but by knowing when and how to deliver their message. And you, in your life, can use this power to elevate yourself in your work, relationships, and personal development. In the modern world, where so much communication happens through social media, where everyone has a voice, it can be tempting to speak just to be heard. But this oversaturation of words leads to a decrease in their value. When everyone is talking all the time, it's harder to stand out. But when you speak thoughtfully, when you carefully choose the moments to express your thoughts, you immediately distinguish yourself. You show that your words aren't just noise. They have substance. You command attention without demanding it. Here's another thought. How many times have you been in a meeting or in a group and noticed the person who speaks the least is often the one people listen to the most? It's because they've mastered the art of speaking with purpose. They don't fill the air with empty chatter. They wait for the right moment, then deliver their thoughts with precision. This is how you become a person of influence, not by talking constantly, but by speaking when it matters. And here's the beauty of it. When you speak with purpose, you don't just influence others, you start to influence yourself. You become more thoughtful, more strategic in how you approach every situation. You begin to measure the value of every word you say. We often think that speaking more will make us more persuasive, but in reality, the opposite is true. Over-talking can sometimes make people tune us out, while speaking purposefully makes them tune in. The key to speaking with purpose is knowing that your words are precious and that every moment of silence is an opportunity to reflect, plan, and strategize. Think about it. Every time you choose silence over unnecessary speech, you strengthen your presence. You make people respect you more, not because you're talking all the time, but because they know when you speak, it's going to matter. Now let's consider a real-life example. Think of the last time you had to give a presentation or speak up in a meeting. Were you nervous trying to fill the silence with extra words to cover up the pressure? How did that work out for you? Now, think about a time when you stayed calm, spoke with conviction, and only said what was necessary. Which approach had more impact? I bet you found that when you focused on the key points, when you carefully chose your words, you were able to command more attention and respect. When you speak with purpose, you stop speaking to fill the void and start speaking to create impact. Each word becomes a tool, a means to shape the conversation and steer it in the direction you want. You no longer waste time or energy. You channel your efforts into moments that truly matter. And here's the real secret. When you master the art of speaking with purpose, you not only command more in conversations, but you also gain more control over your life. You start to act with intention, think with clarity, and live with purpose. Your words, and the way you choose to use them, become a reflection of your inner discipline, confidence, and strength. The lesson here is clear. Don't speak just to fill the silence. Speak because you have something valuable to say. Speak because your words will elevate the conversation, not clutter it. Speak with purpose, and watch as people begin to take notice. Your words will carry more weight, your influence will grow, and your power will multiply. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "While we wait for life, life passes." Don't let your moments pass by while you speak aimlessly. Make every word count. Choose to speak less but speak with purpose, and you'll find that your presence commands more than words ever could. 6. Confidence and control. In life, confidence and control go hand in hand, yet too many of us confuse them with simply being vocal or making sure we're always the loudest in the room. But let me tell you something crucial. Real confidence isn't about how much you speak. It's about how well you control yourself and your words. Think about it. Have you ever seen a confident person who doesn't need to constantly talk? They don't feel the need to impress others with a barrage of words. Instead, they speak when it matters. And in their silence, in their restraint, there's a certain power, a magnetic quality that draws people to them. This is the real essence of confidence, being able to command attention without trying to take it. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Similarly, real confidence isn't about saying everything you can, It's about needing less validation and knowing when to hold back. You see, many people mistakenly believe that talking more means showing confidence. But the truth is, the more you talk, the more you risk exposing your insecurities. When we feel insecure, we often overcompensate with words, thinking that if we talk more, we'll appear more knowledgeable, more powerful, or more impressive. But in reality, this only reveals our fear of being misunderstood, of not being enough. When you're confident in yourself, you don't need to prove anything. Your presence is felt by the calmness in your demeanor, the thoughtfulness in your words, and the way you choose to speak only when necessary. Think of the most respected leaders in the world, whether in business, politics, or entertainment. How often do they speak? Not much. But when they do, people listen. Why? Because they've mastered the art of restraint, of controlling their impulses to speak just for the sake of it. And by doing so, they've earned the respect of those around them. Now let me ask you, do you really need to speak to prove your confidence? Or can you command the room with silence? This isn't about becoming mute or avoiding conversations altogether. It's about the intentionality behind your words. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the one who speaks less often holds more weight. Think of a high-stakes meeting. What's more powerful, someone speaking constantly, or the person who sits back, listens, and then speaks with authority when they do? When you speak less but with purpose, your words carry more significance. People begin to hang on to every sentence because they know you don't waste your time talking about trivial things. Your silence becomes a tool for commanding respect. It's all about control over your impulses, your emotions, and your words. Think of a lion, calm and composed in its territory. It doesn't roar every second, but when it does, every other animal in the jungle knows to pay attention. This kind of power comes from knowing when to act, when to speak, and when to remain still. The more control you have over yourself, the less you need to assert yourself through words. Instead, your presence becomes the statement. And when you do speak, your words resonate with purpose. You become someone whose words have weight, whose silence has power. This is where the concept of Stoicism comes in. The Stoics believed that true strength is found not in external circumstances but in controlling one's own responses. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In the same way, you have power over your speech. Realize that you don't have to speak to be heard. Your actions, your silence, and your self-control speak volumes. And when you do choose to speak, you speak with clarity, intention, and strength. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply delivering value. Think of the modern world we live in. Social media has given everyone a platform to speak, and it's easy to get caught up in the noise. But the most influential people in today's world aren't necessarily the loudest. They're the ones who choose their moments wisely, who understand the importance of saying something meaningful when they do speak. They know how to control their presence, their emotions, and most importantly, their words. So, what does that say about your own communication? Are you speaking to fill the space, or are you speaking to make an impact? When was the last time you paused before responding, taking a moment to ensure that what you were about to say was worth saying? That is the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to be respected. In your everyday life, this applies to both personal and professional interactions. Let's say you're in a meeting at work. There's someone in the room who talks nonstop, trying to dominate the conversation. But there's also someone else who listens carefully, analyzes the situation, and then delivers a well-thought-out point. Who is the one everyone respects more? It's the person who speaks with purpose, who knows when to listen and when to contribute. In this case, silence becomes a tool of strength, not weakness. It shows control, focus, and the ability to think before reacting. Now, think about this for a moment. When you speak with intention, you're not just controlling the conversation, you're controlling yourself. You're taking the time to evaluate the value of your words. to ask yourself if what you're about to say is truly necessary and if it will bring about the result you want. This is confidence. It's the ability to pause, to think, and to act when the time is right. And in a world where so many people are trying to be seen, those who can master the art of silence, those who control their words, are the ones who ultimately command respect and attention. So, let me leave you with this. How can you start practicing more control over your speech? Are you ready to speak less but with more purpose? Confidence isn't about proving you're right or filling the silence. It's about knowing when to remain silent and when to speak with intention. Your words have more power than you think. Choose them wisely and you'll begin to notice the shift in how people perceive you. When you speak with purpose, you speak with strength, and that's where true power lies. The more control you have over your words, the more respect and influence you'll gain in your life. There's someone in the room who talks nonstop, trying to dominate the conversation, but there's also someone else who listens carefully, analyzes the situation, and then delivers a well-thought-out point. Who is the one everyone respects more? It's the person who speaks with purpose, who knows when to listen and when to contribute. In this case, silence becomes a tool of strength, not weakness. It shows control, focus, and the ability to think before reacting. Now think about this for a moment. When you speak with intention, you're not just controlling the conversation, you're controlling yourself. You're taking the time to evaluate the value of your words, to ask yourself if what you're about to say is truly necessary, and if it will bring about the result you want. This is confidence. It's the ability to pause, to think, and to act when the time is right. And in a world where so many people are trying to be seen, those who can master the art of silence, those who control their words, are the ones who ultimately command respect and attention. So, let me leave you with this. How can you start practicing more control over your speech? Are you ready to speak less, but with more purpose? Confidence isn't about proving you're right or filling the silence. It's about knowing when to remain silent and when to speak with intention. Your words have more power than you think. Choose them wisely, and you'll begin to notice the shift in how people perceive you. When you speak with purpose, you speak with strength, and that's where true power lies. The more control you have over your words, the more respect and influence you'll gain in your life. 7. The wisdom of silence. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, where social media pushes everyone to share their thoughts at every moment, it's easy to forget the power of silence. Yet silence is often the most powerful tool at your disposal. Silence is a source of great strength, Lao Tzu once said. And he's right. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a strategic choice, one that reflects control, power, and wisdom. Think about the people you admire, the leaders, the visionaries, the ones who stand out in a crowd. How often do they fill the air with words? Not often. Instead, they speak less. But when they do, their words have weight, depth, and purpose. So why is it that the more you speak, the less impact your words have? You see, every time you speak, you're giving a piece of yourself away. You're revealing your thoughts, your feelings, and sometimes even your insecurities. The more you talk, the more you risk showing weakness. But when you choose silence, you hold the power. It's not about saying nothing. It's about saying the right thing at the right time. And here's the truth. Most people fail to realize this. They think that speaking often means being heard. But in reality, it's the person who speaks less who commands the most respect. When you can remain calm in the face of noise, when you choose not to fill the space with words, you signal to the world that you are in control of yourself and the situation. Consider this. How many times have you been in a meeting or conversation and someone just keeps talking? They're not adding anything of value, they're just filling the air with noise. But there's always that one person who listens more than they speak. When they finally speak, everyone stops and listens. Their words aren't just noise, they carry authority. That's the power of silence. It gives you the chance to listen to observe, to take in the full scope of the situation. And in that space, you gain perspective. The more you observe and the less you speak, the more information you have at your disposal. In modern life, this is a vital skill. Whether you're negotiating a deal, managing a team, or simply engaging in a conversation with friends, the ability to stay quiet, to listen, and to process what's being said is often more important than having the quickest answer or the loudest voice. Let me ask you this. How many times have you regretted speaking too soon? How often do we say things in the heat of the moment, only to later realize that silence would have been far more powerful? One of the most dangerous things we can do is speak out of habit or in reaction. It's easy to jump in, to fill the silence, to offer your opinion even when it's not necessary. But here's the thing. When you control your speech, you control the situation. You control your thoughts, and you control your emotions. The Stoics, who mastered the art of self-discipline, taught that we must learn to control our reactions, not just to external events but also to our own thoughts and impulses. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." By listening more and speaking less, you gain insight, you gain understanding, and you give yourself the time to choose your words wisely. Now think about this. Silence is not just about restraint. It's about having the discipline to hold back until the moment is right. When you speak too much, you risk saying things you don't mean, or worse, revealing too much about yourself. Silence allows you to process the information you're hearing, to weigh your words carefully, and to respond in a way that aligns with your goals. Whether you're at work, at home, or with friends, silence can be your greatest ally. The next time you're in a meeting, instead of rushing to speak, take a moment to listen. Assess the situation, gauge the mood, and choose your words with intention. Watch how people respond. When you speak from a place of clarity and purpose, people listen. They respect your words more because they know you don't waste them. But silence doesn't just apply to speaking. It applies to how you carry yourself. In a world full of distractions and noise, the ability to be still, to remain calm, is a reflection of your inner strength. Think of it this way. When everyone else is panicking, when everyone else is shouting to be heard, the person who can remain silent, who can stay composed, is the one who holds the most power. In modern life, this is crucial. Look around at the chaos of our social media-driven world, where everyone is clamoring for attention. How much of it is noise, and how much is true value? The people who stand out are those who understand the power of silence. They understand that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not speak at all, but to listen, observe, and respond with purpose when the time is right. So, how can you apply this wisdom in your own life? First, recognize the importance of restraint. You don't need to speak to be heard. Often, the most important moments in life are the ones where you choose silence over words. It's about timing, discipline, and purpose. Silence is a tool, not a void. In silence, there's clarity, there's wisdom. And in the space between words, you find your power. The next time you're faced with a situation where you feel the urge to speak, take a step back, breathe, listen, choose your words carefully. You'll find that when you do speak, your words carry much more weight, and in that weight, you command the room. By practicing the art of silence, you develop the discipline to control your emotions, your impulses, and your reactions. You create space for yourself to think, to listen, and to act with intention. And in a world full of noise, that is one of the most powerful things you can do. When you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you gain the ultimate power, the ability to move through life with purpose, with clarity, and with confidence. So, let me leave you with this thought. When was the last time you chose silence over speaking? The next time you're tempted to fill the air with words, remember that in silence there's strength, there's wisdom, And ultimately, there's the power to command. If you've made it this far, you're truly mastering the art of speaking less and commanding more. Drop a comment saying, "I am in control," to show you're embracing this journey of growth and wisdom. Stick around. The best is yet to come. 8. Strategic pauses create power. In life, we're conditioned to think that success is about always moving, always acting, and always speaking. But the truth is, the moments when we pause, when we take a step back and wait, are often the ones that give us the greatest power. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Charles Darwin once said, "But responsiveness doesn't always mean immediate action. Sometimes the most powerful response is the one that comes after a strategic pause, the one that allows you to assess, process, and respond with intention." The ability to pause before speaking, before reacting, or before making decisions is a skill that most people overlook. And yet it's one of the most valuable tools in your personal and professional toolkit. Think about it. How often do you find yourself rushing into decisions or speaking out of reflex, without fully thinking through your words or actions? We all have moments where we feel the need to fill the silence or prove ourselves. But consider the people who stand out in life, the ones who command respect. They don't rush. They take a moment to pause, to breathe, to observe, and then they act with purpose. This is what makes them effective. Their pause is not a sign of hesitation or weakness. It's a sign of strength and control. This concept, often overlooked, is deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, which teaches that we must learn to respond to the world, not react to it. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." In the modern world, this means that when you take a moment to pause and gather your thoughts, you are in control of your response. It's in that moment of stillness that you make your strongest moves. Let me tell you a story about a successful businessman I know. He's someone who operates in high-stakes environments, making decisions that affect the lives of thousands. Early in his career, he noticed a pattern. Whenever he rushed into decisions or reacted impulsively, he often regretted it. But when he took a brief pause, just a few seconds to collect his thoughts and assess the situation, his decisions were always better. In one meeting, his team was arguing passionately over a project, each person pushing their own agenda. Everyone was speaking at once, and the tension was high. Instead of jumping into the conversation and adding his opinion to the mix, he sat quietly, observing the dynamics of the room. He let the others speak, and as they did, he gathered all the information he needed to make an informed decision. When the time came, he spoke with purpose, delivering a clear and calm message that diffused the tension and directed the team toward a solution. That pause, not reacting immediately, was his strategic advantage. In that moment, he showed leadership, control, and wisdom. Now ask yourself this. How often do you feel pressured to respond immediately in a conversation or situation? How many times do you speak before you've really processed what's being said? The most powerful people in life, the ones who command respect, are often the ones who take a moment to pause. They understand that pausing doesn't mean they don't know what to say. It means they know exactly when to speak and when not to. When you pause strategically, you gain clarity. You give yourself the space to think, to understand, and to choose your words carefully. This is where your true power lies, not in speaking first, but in speaking last, with conviction and purpose. In today's fast-paced world, everyone is rushing. People want immediate responses, immediate results. But let me ask you this. How many times have you regretted saying something too quickly? How many times have you blurted out something that you wished you could take back? In those moments, what was missing? It was the pause, the moment of stillness that would have allowed you to process your thoughts and respond from a place of wisdom. This isn't just something we see in boardrooms or meetings, it's true in every part of life. Whether you're speaking with your partner, your children, or your colleagues, a strategic pause can change everything. But what does a strategic pause look like in practice? It could be as simple as taking a deep breath before responding in a conversation. It could mean sitting with a decision for a few moments before jumping into action. Or it could involve walking away from a situation entirely and coming back with a clearer mind. The key is understanding that not every situation requires an immediate response. In fact, many situations benefit from a pause. It's in that space of stillness that your power grows. When you pause, you demonstrate that you are in control of your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions. You are not swayed by pressure, by emotions, or by the urgency of others. You have the strength to wait, to reflect, and to act with purpose. Let's take a step back and look at the big picture. The power of the pause doesn't just apply to moments of conflict or decision-making. It applies to life itself. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that life would always present challenges, but they also knew that the key to navigating those challenges was not reacting in haste, but responding with intention. This is why Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles in life, whether they are people, situations, or internal struggles, are the very things that can help us grow if we respond to them wisely. The pause is where we choose our response. It's where we decide what kind of person we want to be. In today's world, where everything seems to move faster than ever, the ability to pause and reflect is more important than ever. It's easy to get caught up in the rush, to feel like you need to act quickly to keep up. But true power comes from knowing when to step back, when to observe, and when to respond. The strategic pause isn't just about waiting. It's about giving yourself the space to make the right move at the right time. It's about mastering the art of timing and decision-making. The next time you feel the pressure to speak or act immediately, remember that your pause is your power. In that moment, you are in control. You are the one who chooses the outcome. So, what can you learn from all of this? The key lesson here is simple. The more you pause, the more powerful you become. Whether it's in a conversation, a meeting, or a moment of personal reflection, taking a pause allows you to respond with clarity, purpose, and strength. The more you practice this, the more you will see how much control you truly have over your life and your circumstances. The strategic pause is not just a tool for success, it is a way of life. It's how the most powerful people navigate the world, and it's how you can too. So next time you face a challenge, remember, pause, breathe, and then act with intention. You'll be amazed at the power you find in stillness. 9. Silence is a tool for reflection and strategy. In a world that is constantly filled with noise, social media, 24-hour news cycles, and the endless rush of modern life, it can feel impossible to find a moment of peace. But what if I told you that silence in its truest form is one of the most powerful tools you can use? Think about it. In the rush to fill every silence with words, we often miss the opportunity for reflection and strategy. Silence is a source of great strength. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, wisely said, and this is something we often forget. Silence isn't just about keeping quiet, it's a deliberate and strategic act. When you embrace silence, you are giving yourself the space to think clearly, to process the world around you, and to decide on the best course of action. The ability to remain silent in the right moments is not only a sign of control, but it's also an indicator of your wisdom and maturity. It's through silence that you can hear the truth, both the truth of your own thoughts and the truth in the world around you. In the fast-paced, always connected world we live in today, we're constantly surrounded by noise. People talking, texts pinging, emails piling up. We often feel the need to speak, to react, to be constantly engaged. And yet, it's in those moments when we choose to remain silent that we actually gain the most clarity. It's during these quiet moments that we give ourselves the chance to reflect, to strategize, and to make better decisions. So let me ask you, how often do you give yourself the gift of silence? How many times in a day do you take a step back and simply pause, not to speak or do anything but to reflect? This is where true power lies. It's in the quiet moments, away from the noise, that we gain perspective. Now you might be thinking, but what if I need to speak up? What if my voice is needed in the conversation? And you're right. There are times when speaking is absolutely necessary. But here's the key. Silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you choose when to speak. The ability to remain silent until the right moment is a skill that allows you to communicate with power and precision. You see, when you speak too often or too quickly, your words lose their impact. People may tune you out, or worse, they may stop listening altogether. But when you speak less and choose your moments carefully, your words carry weight. People listen because they know you don't waste time talking just for the sake of talking. Let me share a modern example with you. Think about the way high-level leaders and successful entrepreneurs communicate. Do they talk all the time? Number. In fact, many of them are known for being careful with their words. Take Warren Buffett, for example, one of the most successful investors in the world. Buffett is often quiet in meetings, observing the situation before speaking. He carefully chooses his words and speaks with intent. When he does speak, people listen. Why? Because they know that when Warren Buffett speaks, it's not just noise, it's meaningful. It's grounded in deep thought and careful consideration. He's mastered the art of silence, and this is something you can learn to do too. The Stoics understood the power of silence, and they mastered the art of reflection. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, spent hours alone reflecting on his life, his decisions, and his thoughts. He didn't rush to make decisions or speak without thinking. Instead, he understood the value of taking time to reflect, to evaluate, and to choose his next step with intention. He knew that silence wasn't just the absence of sound. It was an essential part of the decision-making process. The more we allow ourselves moments of silence, the clearer our thoughts become. The more we reflect, the better we understand the world and our place in it. When you take time to reflect in silence, you also begin to notice things you would otherwise miss. You can hear the underlying dynamics in a conversation that might have gone unnoticed if you were busy talking. You begin to observe body language, the tone of voice, and the unspoken messages people are conveying. This deeper level of awareness is a direct result of embracing silence. You see more, you hear more, and ultimately you understand more. And with this understanding, you become more strategic in your actions. Your decisions become sharper, your moves more deliberate, and your communication more impactful. Now, I want you to think about your daily life. How often do you take moments of silence? How often do you take time to reflect before you act or speak? In a world that pushes you to constantly be doing something, silence is the one thing that can help you reset, recharge, and realign. In those moments of stillness, you reconnect with yourself. You gain the clarity you need to face the challenges ahead. This is how you become a better leader, a better communicator, and a better decision maker. In today's culture of constant hustle, it's easy to feel like you need to be doing something all the time. You need to be in the know. You need to be active, and you need to be speaking up. But if you want to command respect, if you want to lead with purpose and strategy, you need to learn the art of silence. You need to embrace the quiet moments, because it's in these moments that you can truly hear your own thoughts, understand the world around you, and make decisions that are thoughtful and impactful. So what can you take away from this? The lesson is simple. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It's a powerful tool for reflection, clarity, and strategy. The next time you find yourself in a conversation or a decision-making situation, don't be afraid to pause. Embrace the silence. Allow yourself the space to think. In that silence, you'll find your power. By learning to use silence effectively, you will command more respect, make better decisions, and lead with purpose. So, take a step back, embrace the quiet, and trust that in the stillness, your greatest strength is waiting to be discovered. To wrap up, remember this powerful lesson. The ability to speak less and command more is not just about restraint. It's about understanding your power and using it wisely. As we've explored today, silence is a tool of reflection, a moment to gather your thoughts and a strategy to create impact. True power doesn't need to shout. It speaks with intention, clarity, and purpose. As the Stoics believed, he who is not a good servant will not be a good master. By mastering yourself, your words, and your silence, you command respect and influence. So take these lessons, apply them in your life, and watch how your presence transforms. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life for more motivational content like this. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our next video. Stay tuned, stay focused, and keep mastering yourself. Thank you for watching.